I am a 41-year-old working mother with an elementary school-age daughter. I usually manage the e-commerce shop of my father's food company. I don't have much interaction with other people because I basically work on my PC. That makes things easy for me. However, sales have been declined recently, and there was bad rumors. Some people said that the company might go bankrupt. My husband Bob was very concerned about this. Hey, is your father's company going to be okay? You're worried about me? Thank you. What are you talking about? What's the point of me marrying you if you're not rich? I'm with you because your parents rich. What? What do you mean? Before we got married, Bob used to be a gentle, kind person. However, after we got married, he changed completely. He is completely a different person now. Whenever he felt upset, he would make a tick sound. He was never tidied, and his undressed clothes and socks were all over the place. I also saw him not washing his hands after coming out of the bathroom, which is really disgusting. And he only brings $500 a month. But he was the kind of person who would act like he was the head of the family. By the way, there was one time we had a fight a while ago. He said something like this: "Who do you think is the one to support this family?" It's actually me, but I didn't have the energy to get angry. Despite Bob's attitude, I became pregnant soon after we were married. At that time, I still didn't know Bob's true personality, so I ended up staying married thinking about the child. Of course, I was thinking about getting the divorce in the future. However, that day came sooner than I had expected. The company I worked for went bankrupt. Bob's attitude, which had always been bad, became even worse. Hey, is it true that the company is going bankrupt? If that happens, what will happen to your parents' property? Would I get my inheritance? This was the first thing Bob said when he found out about the bankruptcy. Inheritance? What is this man talking about? My father is still alive and well. In the first place, Bob has no right to receive my father's inheritance, and he continued to make fun of my father. What the failed entrepreneur. That's what I told him I would be his successor. If he was a capable person like me, he wouldn't have gone bankrupt. Did you know that your father is such a loser? Bob is clapping his hands and laughing. Come to think of it, Bob once told me that he could take over my father's company. I think it was about 2 years after we got married. By that time, I already knew what he wanted, so I declined the offer. I told my father about it, but he agreed with me. Bob had a problem with his personality and is not capable in the first place. So I've refused him, which ended up in a bad way. Bob seemed to have had it in mind. I mean, mentioning the successor of a company in the sudden? How stupid are you to come up with that idea? I don't know why I married such a man. It's safe to say it was my fault to trust his bullshit. As I sighed, Bob continued saying happily, "Well, all we need now is a divorce." What? A divorce? Of course, I married you because your family is rich. But you didn't buy me a car or a house. All the gifts went to our girl. That's why I was looking forward to my inheritance. But instead, it looks like I even gonna have debts in the future. I understand. Bob and I got divorced. He was hesitant on paying for child support, but I managed to get him to pay it all out in one lump sum. It was very, very quick. Even though Bob and I are divorced, the life of my girl and I didn't change. In any case, Bob was a man who spent most of his time fooling around and was rarely home. If this was the case, I should have divorced him earlier. A year passed, and I was enjoying my new life with satisfaction. Then I happened to run into Bob on the street. He was walking with a young woman. "Ah, look who's here. What are you wearing, a suit? I get it. You're looking for a job, do you? Your company went bankrupt after all." "I thought you'd be homeless or something like that. It's tough being poor." My ex-husband was becoming more and more of a dick. The woman beside him said, "Oh no, I feel sorry for her." And she's grinning. It looks like he found a suitable partner with the same intelligence level. I took a deep breath and said, "I'm the CEO now." "Huh? CEO?" My ex-husband looked puzzled. But the next moment he started smirking and laughing. You mean you're the CEO's mistress?" How disappointing and disgusting. Even though we are separated now, he's still the man I once married. I didn't realize he was that much of a jerk. "No, I'm the CEO of my father's company." "Huh? What are you talking about? That company went bankrupt, didn't it?" Right, that one." "Didn't you know my father owns several companies? I told you many times." "What? Are you serious?" "Actually, my father owned 5 different companies. One of them went bankrupt, which was true, but it was a small company with only a few employees. After the bankruptcy, they all went to the other group company. Of course, it was huge of the bankruptcy after all, but it was not as fatal as my ex-husband thought. It was an intentional bankruptcy." "But what do you mean you are the CEO?" I was wondering what to do after my divorce. At that time, my father asked me to learn from him to become his successor. The company of which I am the CEO now is running a business for women. Most of the employees there are women. I would like you to become the CEO of this company. That is what I was told by my father. I readily agreed. "Then you are rich again?" "Well, I guess I am, in comparison to before." "Then I can get back to you." "Get back? You can get back to me? Who the hell do you think you are?" I ignored him and tried to leave. "Hey, don't you dare ignore me and walk away." My ex-husband grabbed my bag and pulled it. I wanted to slap this stupid bastard on his face. The next moment, I heard a loud slap. It wasn't me. The woman beside him was the source of the sound. "I've been waiting for over 3 years for you to get divorced." She was super furious. Her face turned red. After the 3rd blow, it was not a slap, but a punch. And she was crying so hard that her thick makeup fell off and turned to mush. Well, I could sort of understand how she felt. I even offered her my handkerchief. As for Bob, "Oh, stop it!" He sat there holding his head. It was really pathetic. But I felt so much better. I felt so exhilarated. I suppressed the feeling of skipping and slowly walked away from the place. And then I went straight to my lawyer's office because I felt so energized. Actually, I was preparing to file a claim for alimony against Bob. Of course, I knew that he had been having an affair since we were married. However, I thought that if I wanted to continue our marriage, I would turn a blind eye to it. But we ended up getting a divorce. Besides, after the divorce, I was so occupied with my new life, with my girl and my work. To be honest, I had forgotten about Bob. But recently, through a mutual acquaintance, I found Bob and his girlfriend's social media accounts. There were so many lovey-dovey pictures of the two of them posted from when we were married. Now that I found plenty of evidence, I was wondering if I should file for alimony or not. I was still feeling not sure about the decision after that, and when we met again, he was behaving totally like an asshole. So I filed for alimony against Bob and his girlfriend. Both of them made a big fuss about it, but my lawyer did a good job. After that, they seemed to have broken up, but what I heard was that she had turned into a stalker and stick with Bob. I'll say those two are just not ready to get out of all the misery. Raising my daughter alone and working hard as an CEO. For women who want to work while raising their children and taking care of their family, or just want some rest because of menstrual pains, I will continue to do my best so that they can enjoy their working time. My name is Mary. I work for a company. My performance there was recognized by my boss. I was told to be the most capable person among my peers. On the other hand, there was a colleague who couldn't do his job at all. That's John, who later became my husband. He had a lot of enthusiasm for his work, but he really wasn't capable. I often counseled him. In the progress, we grew closer. We started going out for dinner. One day, John asked me to go out to eat as usual, and he asked, "Mary, will you be my girlfriend?" I had come to have feelings for him, so I said I would be happy to. Since then, we have been going out, and sometimes I counseled him about my work. He became an irreplaceable part of my life. We decided to get married in no time. After greeting my parents, we headed to my in-laws' house to greet them. When I arrived at my parents-in-law's house, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, who lived in the same house, greeted me with smiles. "Mary, welcome. John told me all about you. It's nice to meet you at last. Mary, welcome to my home. You're going to be my sister from now on. Let's get along well with each other." My sister-in-law asked me to shake her hand. I was surprised, but I shook her hand back. They seemed cheerful and kind. I thought to myself, my husband lost his father when he was young, and they had been living together very close since then, so they are very close. I was a little worried that I wouldn't fit in, but my anxiety was eased a little when I met the two cheerful people. After living together for a while, my husband said, "Mary, why don't we all live together at my parents' house?" He suggested that we all live together. We had visited my parents-in-law's house several times after our marriage. We had talked about how it might be fun and lively if we all lived together, so I was thinking it might happen in the near future. All right, your mother and sister are both nice people, and I gladly agreed. I later realized that this decision was wrong. The day of moving to the in-laws' house, I finished packing, and I headed for their house. My husband went inside first. Then my mother-in-law and sister-in-law came out. The atmosphere was somehow different from when I met them. Oh my, You finally came. What are you doing here? Why don't you clean up your mess? I was speechless at the transformation of my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. Yes, they showed their true selves. Oh, yes, I didn't tell you, but from now on, you're going to do all the housework. What? What do you mean? What do you mean? Don't you understand? I was sad. I had dreamed of living happily with my sweet mother-in-law and sister-in-law. It was shattered on the first day. I see. All that kindness was an act. The reason they asked me to move in with them was because they wanted me to do all the housework. I wish I'd had figured it out sooner. But it's only the first day, with a little hope that things might improve from now on. I decided to do what I was told. But day by day, their attitude only got worse. They complained about even a single hair on the floor. Mary, are you cleaning properly? There's hair on the floor. What are you thinking? Always leaving the housework half done and going to work? At these words, as you can imagine, I retorted, Mother, I have a job to do. Can't you help me a little? But my mother-in-law didn't give a damn. There's nothing that can be done. As for my sister-in-law, she seems to be working until noon. When she comes home, she doesn't do any housework. She just watches TV and laughs. I talked to my husband about it, but he said, they both work so hard, so why don't you make it a little easier for both of them? You come home earlier than I do sometimes, so help me then. No, I'm a man. I am a man? So what? I don't understand why my husband is saying so. I stopped poking back. And from then on, I would get up early and finish my chores so they wouldn't complain, and then I would go to work. I only sleep 3 hours a night, but I couldn't let that interfere with my work, so I tried hard. But then, as if to push me over the edge, my mother-in-law said something like this. Hey, Mary, John told me about this. Is it true that you get paid more than John? You know that I lived on a pension, right? My body is getting weak, and I have to go to the hospital. It's not enough. I'm hoping you can help me with about $2,000 a month. $2,000? Mother, that's impossible. I'm putting some money into this house for living expenses. That's not enough. That's why I'm here telling you. Please work more and bring me more money. When I was at a loss for an answer, my sister-in-law, who was listening to the conversation, intervened and said, That's right. You should work more to help us. We are a family. She said something like that to me. I was so weak from lack of sleep that I didn't have the strength to talk back. I reluctantly agreed. I can't wait to get out of this life. My husband is not on my side at all. I think I'm going to go crazy if I don't do something. As my mother-in-law said earlier, I make more money than my husband does. Even if we got divorced, I can live on my own. But I don't want to just walk away. I want to do something to get back at them. That's what I was thinking. After a while, my sister-in-law was getting married. She met him at a party and they hit it off. 3 months later, they were going to have a wedding. I had zero interest in celebrating it, but I came up with a plan and eagerly awaited the wedding day. My plan was to give a speech at my sister-in-law's wedding. I revealed everything they did to me in my speech. I thought it would be a great chance for revenge, as the guests would include friends of my sister-in-law and relatives of the groom. And on the day of wedding, the ceremony went without a hitch. And then came the wedding party. My sister-in-law is smiling happily in her dress. I wonder how long that smile will last. The cutting ceremony. After the friends had finished their speeches, it was time for the bride and the groom to read out their letters to their parents. At this point, the MC made an announcement. We had a surprise. It's a speech from the bride's relative, Mary. My sister-in-law is so excited that she says, "What is it?" With a grin on her face, I took a deep breath and it was time for a word. I took the microphone from MC, put on a big smile, and began to speak. To the groom and to the bride, congratulations on your marriage. My name is Mary, sister-in-law of the bride, Sarah. Sarah has helped me a lot in the past, so I wanted to take this opportunity to thank her for all she has done for me. Please listen to my story. There was a round of applause from the guests. I married Sarah's younger brother, John, and we all lived together in my in-laws' house with Sarah and John's mom. Before moving in together, Mom and Sarah were very kind and very nice people. I was looking forward to living with them. However, from the first day of living together, their attitude suddenly changed. They began to force me to do all the housework. The guests began to murmur, but I kept going. And they also started to pick on me about the housework every day. I was working so hard that I had to cut down my sleeping hours. I did all the housework perfectly. They told me that since I get paid more than my husband, I would give them $2,000 a month. When I refused, they told me to work harder and earn more money. Then I took out my smartphone and put it close to the microphone. Here's the proof, and played the audio between my mother-in-law and sister-in-law that I had recorded. I could see my mother-in-law and sister-in-law's faces turn pale at once. And at the same time, I felt my heart lighten up. The triumph of technology. I hear the sound of civilization opening. Then, when I had finished playing the whole recording, I said, I did tell my husband about this, but he was indifferent and didn't take my side. These people are demons. I can't take it anymore. When I finished saying this, the audience went wild with condemnation of the in-laws. What's going on? Explain it to me. Some people were shouting. I'm amused. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law tried hard to make excuses, but they couldn't get anyone to believe them. My husband's eyes were black and white with impatience, and he didn't seem to be able to say anything. The groom and his parents were staring at Sarah. It was a hellish scene. Thank you very much for your kind attention. And as I was about to leave the venue, wait a minute! Sister-in-law and mother-in-law were chasing after me, but I ignored them and left. When I walked out of the venue, I felt very refreshed. I would be free for that life. I skipped back home. I hadn't skipped in years. I felt like I had wings on my back, and I took the bags I had originally packed and left the house, leaving the divorce papers and the ring in the house. Parents said I could come home, but I didn't want to bother them. I decided to stay in a hotel until I found a new place. When I got to the hotel, I checked my phone, found a huge number of incoming calls. Of course, they were from my in-laws. There were also a lot of messages. They were all about the speech. What have you done? You are unbelievable. You ruined my wedding. You betrayed us. You are a traitor. You are a pest. Such compliments came from my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. From my husband, there was a message. I'm really sorry for everything I've done. Please don't divorce me. I replied only to this and said, "That's impossible. Please fill out the divorce papers and submit them." They are really unrepentant people. They take what they dig too lightly. The sense of freedom of finally being unlatched, and with the lack of sleep, I slept like a dead person that day. I can't remember last time I slept as well as this time. The next day, I had a day off from work, so I went to the lawyer's office right away. As a matter of fact, I had been keeping a diary, so I was able to get a large amount of alimony. My husband refused to divorce until the very end, but finally he gave in. I heard later the family-in-law had a hard time after that. The wedding party was immediately cancelled. Of course, my sister-in-law's marriage was cancelled. When the groom asked for the wedding expenses, my sister-in-law cried to the groom, but he said, "I didn't think you were such a person. I'm disgusted by you." She was isolated from her friends and became lonely. With a personality like that, she would have no friends. My mother-in-law had been saying bad things about me to all the relatives, but her true character was revealed in the speech, and she was scorned by all the relatives. She had been acting like a good person to the people around her, so I hear she's very torn now. She deserves it. She was using the money she got from me to get all kinds of beauty treatments, etc. But she can no longer do that, and now she has aged so much that you can't even tell who she is. My ex-husband invited some people from his company to the wedding. I guess that's how the story got out to the company. Maybe the whole company heard about it become difficult to stay, and before I knew it, he was gone. I guess the company didn't stop him because he wasn't good at his job at his first place. I received words of sympathy from my peers. My ex-family-in-law could no longer stay in the area. The three of them moved to some countryside, still the close family after all. For me, I got a promotion for the job, and I moved into a nice apartment. It's too comfortable. I've been able to get a lot of sleep, and my physical condition has improved. I've been able to perform better at work than ever before. I guess hard work doesn't betray you. Sometimes when I go back to my parents' house, they tell me that they hope I'll meet a decent person. I just say yes, and that is light. I'm happy now with my job, taking a break from love and working hard at my job. I would like to buy myself a treat once in a while or pay for my parents for travel. I've had a lot of bad experiences, but I think I've learned a lot from it. Next time I have a chance to meet someone, I don't want to go through the same thing again. I want to learn how to distinguish good people and bad people. I'm Mary, a housewife living in a double family house with my in-laws. I met my husband when we were in college, and we were together for 5 years before we got married. For the first 2 years of our marriage, we lived together in an apartment. However, my parents-in-law strongly requested that we build a double family house. I had seen my in-laws many times since my husband and I started dating. Both of my parents-in-law were kind and always treated me well. So the proposal to build a double family house was accepted easily. The house has 2 entrances, and you have to go out once to get to the other house. So we have our own space, and we could help each other if something happened. My parents lived far away, so I was rather grateful to have them live close by. For the first 6 months after moving, I think we had a good relationship as I imagined. One day, I got hives all over my body. At the beginning, it was just slightly. It happened when my parents-in-law, my husband, and I went out for dinner. We went to a Thai restaurant. My mother-in-law and I arrived at the restaurant early. We were looking at the menu to order before the others arrived. my mother-in-law wanted to order a dish with cilantro on it. So I said, "Mother, John hates cilantro, so let's ask the restaurant to remove it." This was it. My mother-in-law didn't know that her son doesn't eat cilantro. "What? What is that? Are you trying to say that you know John better than me?" "What? I don't remember she'd ever been like this." I felt as if the time had stopped for a moment. I still remember the moment when my mother-in-law's face, who had always been so kind to me, turned to devilish. My father-in-law and John arrived shortly thereafter. The dinner ended peacefully, as if my mother-in-law's earlier comment had never happened. After that day, my mother-in-law started harassing me every day. I know how much she loved John, but this was more than I had imagined. By the way, I know John was never a mommy's boy. That's the only thing that saved me. Ding dong. Every morning around 10 a.m., John left for work. Then my mother-in-law would come over just to harass me. "Oh, it's such a beautiful day, but you haven't done the laundry yet? What a lazy wife." At first, she started by being picky with my housework. In the beginning, I didn't expect her to come every day. I managed to get by with a jokey smile, but it gradually gets too far. "Hey, when are you going to get divorced? A wife like you pisses everyone here. I think the only mistake in John's life is marrying you." I tried my best not to grab a thick book to shut her mouth. I just smiled and left the sarcasm, rolled off my face for a few hours until she left. When she saw that no damage had been done to me, she even changed her attitude when John was there. She started talking to John in a cat-like voice. His voice made me feel uncomfortable and even gave me goosebumps. I was getting so tired that I seriously thought about getting a thick book for her. My husband's reaction to my mother-in-law was gentle, a little annoyed, but as usual. I feel sorry for Johnny that you're serving him this kind of food. Johnny leaves early in the morning because she wants to spend less time with you." Before I knew it, she started calling him Johnny. That's not what you should be sorry for, but whatever. This person really needs to shut up. As a peace lover, I tried my best not to see her as possible. I would go out when she was coming over, but then she would not stop calling me. And when I came back, she would be waiting in front of the house and yelled at me. I knew that I couldn't run anymore. I didn't want to let John know about this because I hate drama, so my body collapsed by getting hives. At that time, I did think about telling John, but my mother-in-law changed to a kind mother as she used to be before in front of her son. What a monster! A cunning woman would be a fox, but with my mother-in-law's body shape, a raccoon was more suitable for her. I wondered how to explain this monstrous raccoon to John and his father. Even if I told them honestly, they might not believe me. I couldn't take action. My father-in-law had always treated me well, and my mother-in-law and father-in-law were a close couple. He would be devastated. If I could just endure a few hours of the mean monster raccoon every day, then maybe that would be better. Maybe my mother-in-law would get tired of bullying me too. One day, I was thinking about these things. John had to go to dinner with clients and left his car at the office and took a cab home. His boss had arranged for him to come to the work in the afternoon the next day because he couldn't use the car. John woke up around the time he usually left the house and we had breakfast together. He was always rushing around in the morning, so it was nice to spend time together in the morning. I made a little more luxurious breakfast than usual. John is a salesman, so he is good at entertaining people by talking about what happened. So I laughed and laughed while he told about the dinner last night. After the breakfast, he went to the bathroom. Ding dong! My mother-in-law came over. She must have thought her son was gone because the car wasn't there. As soon as she opened the door, she started talking like a machine gun. There are leaves all over the front of the house. Can you even clean up properly? Go clean up the mess. What the hell? It's gross here. Just like you, bitch. Did you grow up in the pigsty? Just get divorced. Oh my. Mother, should I tell her John was still here? Or is it better if John finds out, so I don't have to tell him and he will understand? My mother-in-law noticed that I was surprised and weird by the situation that she started saying. What? Are you trying to talk back to me? It's now or never, I thought. Mother, please forgive me. I will do my best. I replied weakly, intentionally sounding like I was about to cry. Then my mother-in-law's bullying raccoon mode kicked into top gear. What do you mean, I'll do my best? She said. You're doing nothing. It's useless. You are useless. Useless. I tried to sound like I was about to cry even more. Oh, please, don't. I pleaded. I was starting to enjoy more and more. Don't touch me, you pigsty bitch. How many times should I say, I hate you? Can't imagine that my Johnny has to eat your pig foolish meals. Just divorce my Johnny. I don't care if it's a monkey or a pig as long as it's not you. You call me the pigsty woman, but you don't care if your son marry a pig? What a nonsense. I was trying hard to hold back my laughter. That's when it happened. We heard the sound of the toilet water flushing. My mother-in-law looked at me like, no way. I got down on the floor and hit my face because I was about to collapse with laughter. Mom, what was that? John came out of the bathroom. My mother-in-law turned pale when she saw the face of her son, who was mad like a demon. John, why are you here? That's my question too. Why you're here and what are you doing? No, just how come you're here? Today is afternoon shift. Why are you saying such horrible things to Mary? You always seem to get along so well with her. What's going on? I was on the floor, glancing at my husband. He looked like some kind of American hero. No, it's not what you think. I was just teaching her because she didn't do her duty well. Saying you hate her, get a divorce, and called her a pig is telling her how to do housework? I heard everything you said. This isn't the first time today, huh? Even it's you, Mom. This is unforgivable. You set me up. My mother-in-law grabbed me by the shoulders and tried to pull me up. Mother, stop it. If I show my face now, she'll know I was laughing. Stop it, Mom. Just get out of here. My mother-in-law was yelled by her favorite Johnny, and she stepped out of the room sobbing. Soon after, my laughter subsided and I sat up, making a face like I was crying. John wiped my tears, saying, I'm sorry. But they were the tears I was holding back from laughing. I'm sorry. I told my husband everything that had happened, that she visits me every morning at this time, that the hives was not serious at the beginning, but her bullying made it worse, and that my whole body is covered by them now. I'm sorry I didn't realize how hard it had been for you. It won't happen anymore. You don't have to put up with it. I'll think about how to handle this. My mom might come over today, so will you go out until I get home? My husband's words brought tears to my eyes again. By the way, these are tears of joy. I'm so glad that I married this man. At the same time, I wondered how such a wonderful man was born from that mother. I muttered to myself, a monster raccoon gave birth to a Pegasus. After that, we left the house. I had a lunch and went to the karaoke. What a wonderful afternoon. I felt refreshed from the first time in a long time. My mother-in-law was calling me and texting me like a demon. I replied that I would forward the emails to John and I would let him listen to her voice message. This time, I got triple the numbers of apology messages. I guess she has a lot of free time on her hands. Then, after John finished work, we went out for dinner together. He said, "Let's talk to Mom and Dad about this. Let's move out of the house." I don't know what Dad would say, but if we sell the house now, I think it would save a lot from the loan. I don't think you want to see them anymore, so I'll be the one to talk. I'm really sorry about everything. He was so nice that I felt guilty for the fake crying. Then we went to their house. The moment we arrived home, my mother-in-law stared at me with a very scary face, but I replied with my best smile. "Johnny, listen to me. Listen, it was really a mistake this morning, you know." She kept making excuses, but John ignored her and said, "Dad, can you sit down for a minute? I need to talk to you." My father-in-law looked at him strangely, but he sat down at a dining table with his son. While John was telling him what had happened, my father-in-law looked at him with a blank stare, as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. And my mother-in-law was crying the whole time. "Mary, I want to apologize to you too. I'm really sorry. What my wife did is unforgivable. Bullying is not something an adult should do. This is the responsibility for both of us," my father-in-law said, struggling his head. "You should apologize properly too," he told my mother-in-law and made her bow her head. I'm sorry. My mother-in-law cried and apologized as if she was chanting a curse in a small voice. It sounded a little like a curse, and I was scared. "We are moving out too. I agreed to sell the house. It's definitely better to keep our physical distance. I'll pay the short on the loan, so you two don't have to worry about money." My mother-in-law started screaming like a child. "No way! I won't do it again, I promise! Don't leave me, Johnny!" "Just shut your mouth! Do you think we have the choice? You are the one who caused it!" When my father-in-law scolded her, she stopped saying anything. A big deal that my father-in-law to shout her so loudly. My father-in-law and my husband are always so kind. I've never seen them so angry. "Thank you, Dad. I'll do the application and call you when it's settled." "Thank you, Father." Everything that I had been holding back for so long was resolved in one day. I was so tired that I went home and fell asleep immediately. It was the first time in a long time that I could sleep so well without worrying about the next day. I went to my friend's place so that I wouldn't have time to be alone at home until we decided where to go. I had hives all over my body, but the day after I fought off my mother-in-law, they disappeared. The human body is so amazing. I guess the illness comes from inside. A week later, we signed a contract for a flat near John's office. Now I feel as if I am a newlywed again, and John and I are getting along peacefully. I still get a little nervous when the doorbell rings in the morning, when I'm home alone because of the trauma. However, I'm slowly getting back to the way things were before we moved into the double family house. I heard that my in-laws have also started living together in an apartment. Fortunately, the house sold for a good price that they were able to pay the rest of the loan with my father-in-law's savings. Mother-in-law was depressed for a while and stopped doing housework, but my father-in-law got angry with her and she went back to her duty. Furthermore, he is planning to make my mother-in-law work part-time, telling her there is still unpaid on the house. I felt sorry for the people at the part-time job because they would have a hard time. My father-in-law won't let my mother-in-law know our new house. The fact alone is enough to make me feel safe. I saw my mother-in-law for the first time in a long time at my sister-in-law's wedding the other day. I hadn't seen her in few months, but she had lost a lot of weight. I tried to have a short conversation with her, but she got scared and ran away when she saw me. The timing John went to the bathroom at that time was really a miracle. I can now spend the morning relaxed doing my chores without the doorbell ringing. It is the only thing that gives me peace of mind every day. For the first time in a long time, I feel happy.